It is April Fool's Day, so don't go out there and cause any too much harm, but have some fun with it. April Fool's Day. It's also Redbud Winter, and we feel it today because it's cold outside. Today we've got Dr. Wren on here. She is a transplant from New Jersey, moved up to the mountain, and she's got one of those cool callings that we can all appreciate. I believe her tagline is America's Holistic Sweetheart, and we know how we all love those natural remedies. Well, Dr. Wren here knows a lot about that. So I'm going to just go right over here. Dr. Wren, welcome here.
Thank you. How y'all's doing?
Yeah. It's either one finger or two finger when you're going down the street.
Yeah.
All right, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like you said, I'm known as America's Holistic Sweetheart. That's my sobriquet. Just being a holistic health advocate all these years to introduce people to alternatives to have a healthy lifestyle. That sobriquet actually developed because I founded the first holistic chamber of commerce in New Jersey. I got some national recognition when I was nominated as one of Dr. Oz's local health heroes. I was awarded a California State Senate Award throughout that, and then Obama invited me to the White House for his Precision Medical Initiative, where I got to sit on a round table to advocate for our rights to food label transparency with the FDA. And I was like only one of two other tree-hugging hippies in the room, and everyone else was pretty much a Harvard grad.
I bet that was fun.
It was.
Now, tell us, and you also have gone on TV, so this is not your first time.
Not my first rodeo.
Not your first rodeo. What were some of the things that you like to discuss on your show?
Oh, wow. So I did host a IMDb-listed holistic lifestyle show on public access in the New York, New Jersey area, and also aired on some Comcast derivatives in California. And we had different segments to that. We had Today's Healthy Recipe, where we would go over nutrition. We had Name That Leaf, and that was all about herbalism. And then I was really fortunate to get some phenomenal sponsorships where I went to probably about 24 countries to showcase some of the origins of holistic health, indigenous practices, where herbs come from, how certain essential oils are distilled, and so forth.
Gosh, okay. What started your pathway to this?
That's a good question. My paternal grandmother, actually, our family was from Italy, came over to Brooklyn and then settled in the county that I grew up in, New Jersey, and owned the first Italian bakery, butcher shop, and grocery store. My grandmother was the eldest of 16 children and, played a role in really raising them, and then married actually when she was about my age. I'll be 39 this summer, and had my father, and also raised other children, fostered other children. So she had this whole big caretaker about her. And back then, all they really had to rely on was natural remedies, and especially with, being able to afford different herbs and things. So my parents both worked full time for state government. It's one of the reasons they retired here, because their pensions are not getting taxed. Go guys. And Grandma raised me while they worked and taught me just all this old world knowledge with herbs and garden to table and how to cook from scratch and make the raviolis from scratch and those kind of things. So it was really my favorite pastime growing up. So just fast forward a little bit, when I became a teenager and didn't want to listen to anybody or anything, and started, back in Jersey, it's all about tail or ham or pork roll, depending on what side of the Mason-Dixon line of New Jersey you're on. Started eating all these sandwiches in high school, and I went from a 98-pound freshman in high school to a 280-pound
No way.
junior in high school. And I'm like, what is going on here?
No way.
And then I started to study nutrition, become interested in what am I putting into my body. And then I was able to understand with additives and, protein carb to fat ratios and all that rabbit hole stuff that goes into what I do, how things express physically in your body. Eventually, later in life, learning not only physical things like foods, but even our thoughts and our beliefs. And that's how I
Emotional eating.
exactly balance the mind, body, and the spirit. However, I did end up losing the weight and have maintained the same weight range since the age of 17, and now help people to reach their weight goals.
Nice. Now, do you feel that, because we're having a back and forth on, GMOs and there's a lot of allergies. My daughter got gluten allergies, and there's so many allergies going on. It's what we eat.
It's our environment as well. Yeah, the fishbowl. It's the fishbowl that we're in. It's not just that too. It's even like, the airplanes flying over and the chemicals and all that kind of thing. But I feel the approach is to live with it. We can't just change it all. We'll drive ourselves crazy.
Yeah, we'll never go back.
So I think that we can just implement things into our lifestyle to help us be sustained and boost our immune system and live with what we've been dealt, basically.
Yeah, we're not going to stop cars.
No.
We can do what we can. All right.
Although it was fascinating how we saw things cleaned up a lot with the COVID and people not going out and using so much, and how you could see some of the mountains in certain areas now. That was just fascinating.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, and that just shows how the planet is always trying to repair itself.
Right.
And that's the same thing with the human body.
Isn't that interesting? All right. Prepping. Speaking of prepping your body for your immune system, what are your suggestions with that?
Okay, well, I need to give the disclaimer. Of
Okay.
course, we already stated I'm not a medical doctor.
Okay, gotcha.
So I don't treat, cure, diagnose. So I give suggestions for preventative approaches.
Gotcha.
But I also believe that we're not a one-size-fits-all. So I can go right now, and I will, rattle off a couple Band-Aid suggestions. However, when someone works with me with the nutritional coaching, I do food sensitivity testing and hair mineral analysis.
No kidding.
Because the hair mineral analysis, it's a tool, it's a soft tissue. So it gives me a 3-month overview as to what's going on in that person's body.
No kidding.
Whether there's been trauma recently, because that would spike, say, a cortisol or stress level. I can see that in the sodium-potassium ratio. That ratio tells me the state of the heart health. I get to look at over 60 essential trace minerals and heavy metals to kind of, help people get on a holistic lifestyle plan to balance that. And it helps people to not play Russian roulette with their supplements. Because just because the supplement's good doesn't necessarily mean you should take it, because, say, calcium. Calcium is in our multivitamin, it's in all of our things. So we can actually overcalcify. And one of the symptoms to overcalcification is arthritic-like inflammation, achiness, and pain. So that disclaimer being said, I really do feel that the approach to health and wellness is doing things to prevent dis-ease and discomfort.
Sure.
I am a huge fan, and this is why I asked you if you liked, and you're going to make fun of my Jersey accent here, coffee. Before
we love accents
before
here.
The show. And this also ties into my morning routine, which I think we might talk about too. But something that I do every day is my coffee contains 5 different medicinal mushrooms in it.
Oh, we like mushrooms.
Some of these mushrooms we find right here. I find all the time in the Franklin State Forest. I like to wild forage. And one of those mushrooms, one of the primary ones in here, is the reishi mushroom. Mm-hmm. That's the queen of the medicinal mushrooms. It's the red reishi. It comes in 5 colors. However, mushrooms have this innate intelligence to be able to detect tumors and cancer before our own immune system can.
What?
And it will then work to decompose it before it gets to a stage where we can even detect it and label it cancer. So one thing I do and suggest is to use your food as your medicine. How many of you drink coffee? Coffee, how do you say it?
Coffee.
I blame all my pronunciational shortcomings on my Jersey accent, for the record.
Work it, baby.
Thank you. So, coffee.
Mushrooms.
Yes, ma'am.
I've heard of right during the COVID, I was in Florida and stayed at an Airbnb, and there was a young man that was working his way around America working on mushroom farms.
Yeah.
And so that was my first kind of discovery, besides the crazy mushrooms, is the health mushrooms, and I was fascinated.
Yeah, there's so many ways. That's one way to sustainably grow mushrooms, because they probably use inoculation techniques and that type of thing. Because, there are some wild mushrooms that are very rare and scarce, but yeah, it's just a sustainability thing. That's wonderful.
Okay. All right. Go on with how you can help us, like in a short term.
In the short term, all right. Well, we want to make sure we're getting enough magnesium. And I'm going right for magnesium. That's one of the things my hair mineral analysis tests for. However, magnesium plays a role in all of the metabolic processes. Actually, if I could mention even Stephen, who runs around all the time, he was telling me that the back of his calves hurt. And he said he tried the potassium and everything. So I gave him some transdermal magnesium spray to put on the back of his calves. And he said, even better.
We do pickle juice.
Yes, because that's for the electrolytes.
Is it really?
Yes.
I have no idea why it worked, but we do pickle juice.
Because it helps to hydrate you.
Okay.
And so, yeah, make sure that we're getting adequate intake of magnesium, because that would alleviate pain and just help everything.
So that is something, what do you see common with deficiencies that cause symptoms?
What do I see common with deficiencies?
Yeah,
that cause
like
yes.
inflammation is
Yes.
a huge, the owies that you talked about, magnesium. Where are we lacking?
Okay, so what's fascinating to me, because I've digitized my nutritional offerings. So I've worked with people all over the world. And I've been doing this since 2013. So I've seen, a lot of clients, say, specifically in the Northeast or the Northwest or, this area. And each area actually has similarities when it comes to deficiencies. And some of those reasons are, say, selenium, which is one of the beauty minerals.
Do tell.
Yes, ma'am. So it's typically depleted in coastal regions. So a lot of times I see that as a deficiency. And when you're deficient in, say, something like selenium or sulfurs and some of the other beauty minerals, you would not age as gracefully. You'd age more
I may
rapidly.
have to visit.
Well, I do work with
Right.
some hair restoration salons that try to help you with your health and wellness from the inside out. And those are the things that we focus on when someone's looking for beauty, for that natural glow and
Sure.
things. Absolutely.
All right, South, have you figured out something that we're deficient in?
Well, maybe not deficient, but over-assimilating. I do see very high calcium levels here, but I don't know if that's because of the access to farms and foods and that kind of thing. Because calcium, what we mentioned a little bit before we began, was it's found in all your foods pretty much, green leafy vegetables and things, but mainly most of the foods that people consume. But it's also found in your multivitamin and trace amounts in all the other supplements probably in your cabinet if you were to look at the back of the labels and add up the IUs, okay? And being over in calcium could lead to those arthritic-like inflammatory
Really?
type symptoms. Yeah. And you start to feel achy and pain and can't move as good, because those turtles that live to be 100 years old. Do you know what eventually kills them?
What?
They get slower and slower and slower, and they over-calcify and they just go thunk.
Holy wow.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. All right. What were some of my other D3? All right. So during COVID,
Ooh, I like this question already.
During COVID, we had some. There's a lot of holistic people around here because we believe in natural things, and pumping ourselves like a armor, if you will, around you. D3 was mentioned quite a bit.
Yes. So I'm gonna bring this back around full circle to the mushrooms for
All
a
right.
moment.
Yeah, mushrooms.
Because again, my main approach is I like to let your food be your medicine first. And then I like to potentially strategically supplement for a quarter at a time so that we don't start relying on supplements, and our body doesn't become codependent on that. So the highest concentrated food substance on this planet in vitamin D. Now we mentioned the queen of the medicinal mushrooms.
The red one.
The red one. This one is the cinder conch. It's called chaga. That's the king of the medicinal mushrooms. It looks like cinder on the outside. They're little black char things that actually, they call them a cinder conch because the Russians and the Northeasterns would use it as kindling to start their fires back in the day. But inside, it's like orange, almost like the top of that scissor handle right there. And that's where all the vitamin D and polysaccharides and different things that are also cancer preventing reside. So
Mushrooms.
I have a crock pot of chagatian all winter long, especially when, it's going into SADS and we're not getting the sun and all that kind of thing. Yeah.
Mushrooms.
And you can even sprinkle that like in your grits or
anything.
On your food. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I try to hide hemp seeds and chia seeds and things in everything.
Heck yeah.
So
for the omega-3s,
yeah,
that makes your brain light up.
Yeah, I hide it everywhere. I never know I have it. All right, so where could we find these kind of mushrooms? I mean, is this like a Mooney's, or where do we do this?
Possibly.
Or is it like an Amazon thing?
Well, I like to teach people how to live holistically on a budget.
Okay.
So I've figured out some tips and tricks of how to source great quality things on a dime.
Oh, we like that.
Because if not, it's not going to be sustainable. It's not going to work for people.
Because organic seems always very expensive.
Sure.
Everything seems so expensive to eat healthy.
Right. But it's really not.
It's really not.
It's really not. You can figure it out, and especially when you're, sourcing for a household too, and you have, the budgets for the food, and you want to work.
So they can come to you and find how to do this on a low budget.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And I found some local resources for this too, because that's my thing. I'm always
sure,
wheeling and dealing in that regard.
Can we make our own mushroom plots?
Sure can.
Really?
I believe there is one locally.
I'm sure there is.
Around Cowan or so. Someone
I'm sure there is.
told me about it. Yeah.
Huh. Okay. What is the other one hydration.
Key.
All right. Holy cow. So I got my blood work done. I always loved it. It's like an exam. All right, how well am I doing?
Yes.
And I don't like to go to the bathroom all the time. Right. So I withhold my water. I used to. I've really been pumping it up lately once I realized that I'm dehydrated.
Right.
I mean, and I guarantee you most of us are.
There's a book out there called You're Not Sick, You're Thirsty. It's by Dr. Batmandelij.
Oh, even better.
Isn't that a cool name? Dr. Batmandelij.
We have a Dr. Pasaraba here.
So this book talks about how actually many symptoms or people suspect to be illnesses are just from the lack of hydration.
Yeah.
So I don't really do math, but here's the equation. You want to take your weight,
okay,
divide it by 2.
Okay.
That number that you get is the amount of water in ounces.
Oh, good gravy.
Minimum you should drink per day. Now there's ways to maximize that water intake.
Right.
I like to use different type of electrolyte products. I have a couple in my bag so that the water molecules can become absorbable to the cells. We want to make things, and that's why we should chew our food really good.
Okay.
So it's small enough so our cells can actually be nourished from it. But you've got me on a topic now that I'm incredibly passionate about, because there's all types of waters out there. And we can sit all day talking about spring water and pH and alkaline and restructured and programming the living molecules like Dr. Asui Emoto.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
Suyamoto.
Oh,
there's an app called MyHado
okay,
that showed how he'd even program the consciousness of water and would change the molecular structure of it, like by taping, say, the word love on your water and what the molecules morphed into. It's really fascinating.
Ooh.
However, rewind. I'm a huge fan of spring water.
And spring, and there's a reason.
There's a reason, because it's living water. And there's a website out there called findaspring.com. I know there's a lot of nature lovers in this area who love to go camping and exploring, and no matter where you're at in the world, go to findaspring.com if you want to harvest clean drinking water. Now, we have a wonderful spring right here in Sewanee. They've made it really nice to access and everything, so I'll bring my own water jugs and go harvest my own wild spring water here. And then, you can even buy inexpensive test kits off Amazon in case, you're not sure. It's always important to be mindful, especially in the hotter months, around springs where people walk their animals.
Yes.
That's a great time to test your water. But the one here in Sewanee, it's very well kept and clean.
What
And
about
free.
Yeah, and free. What? Yeah, and speaking of non-free, what about so spring water commercially? Is that the same?
Well, let's think about it.
Okay.
Let's think about it a minute. So, possibly, but what are your options when you buy spring water commercially? You can buy it in glass.
All right.
Okay. You could buy it in plastic. We have to be mindful of what the number on the bottom of the plastic bottle is. And what a lot of people don't know about when things, even soda, when things are manufactured and put into plastic bottles, in order for it to truly be like BCP safe, those bottles, once they're made, need to off-gas for at least a year before they're filled.
I guarantee you most don't do that.
No. So the plasticins and things leach into that. And what that does is could potentially disrupt the endocrine and the hormone system.
Oh.
Like lead to breast cancer and that type of thing.
No kidding.
Unless you do a supplement called like BCP's xenoestrogen to help to detox that.
So if you like plastic bottled water,
So I would suggest buying your commercial water in glass bottles.
glass bottles.
But also, again, we don't know, say, the Fiji one that comes from
Yeah.
halfway around the world. We don't know, again, talking about how the molecules in that are programmable and how they express. We don't know where it's been sitting, how long it's been sitting before it gets to us, and how it's been handled. Same thing with food, It's like you want to know your dealer. You want to know your farmer, Oh, it's going to get fun. It's going to get fun, Michelle.
Well, there goes my water. Well, I just drink out of the faucet these days.
There you
so.
go. Love it.
All right, let's talk about morning routines, and then we're going to send all y'all the information to get a hold of Dr. Run because I'm utterly fascinated. So, and low cost options to live your life this way, which is even better. So, all right, tell us about a morning routine.
Alrighty. So another way to boost your immune system and just be the best version of you can be, it starts when you wake up, Try to take a little moment to center, whether that's prayer for you or just, setting your intention for the day, maybe saying a positive affirmation or some yoga stretches. I like to use, it's in my bag, I have these little spiky balls that I roll on the bottom of my feet. I know that over at Bodyworks University, Kim Butters is a big fan of that. She has everybody roll these balls before we start Pilates or anything because it stimulates all those acupoints on the bottom of your feet, which helps to get the circulation and everything going, and it helps you to wake up. Something that I do is I dry brush my face and my whole body with dry brushes because that stimulates the lymphatic system, stimulates the circulation. It really helps me to wake up, and it only takes a minute.
What kind of dry brush do you use?
It's if you Google dry brush, you'll see the specific type of brush, but it is like a boar's head bristle wooden body brush. And I have a little teeny one for my face. I almost brought it today to show you. Something with when you brush your teeth, brush your gums. Some people do tongue scraping and oil pulling. So you could swish coconut oil around in your mouth and hold it for, even up to 10 minutes, really. And that's going to pull some of the toxins and things out of your gums, spit it out. And then I go and, depending on my day, I try to exercise a couple days a week, get the cardio up, and I do my mushroom coffee.
Nice.
Yeah.
And mushrooms. I'm really going to focus on that too. Yeah. All right. Now, if somebody wants, where are all the ways that they can find Dr. Wren?
I would love for y'all's guys to follow me on Instagram, Dr_REN on Instagram. I mean, you can find me on Facebook. My website is drrenrecommends.com. And my email is drren@lorenlarino.com.
I love that name. Is that a fake name, or is that what your parents...
It's not. I was supposed to be a Marianne. And then my father was on a hunting trip in Canada when my mother was like just about to pop, and there was a French waitress, je m'appelle Laurent. So Loren was her name, and they changed it in the last minute. I think it's more exotic. I'll take it.
It's very exotic, but it's all right. So the full name is Loren.
Loren, but my grandmother from Georgia always called me Loran, like I ran away.
Loren, all right. And then the last name is
Lorino.
I mean, how fun is that?
Yeah.
I thought that was a stage name when I saw it. I was like, get out.
I can't pick another stage name. You know, that one's just like you
it's
said,
perfect.
It's too good.
So Dr. Wren, all right. And then you had talked about, at Country Mart, they've got a new couple of studios, which I think are fascinating. So what are you going to practice over there?
Thank you for bringing that up.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate that. So there is a sound healer practitioner in the area, Annalie Verkhaus, and in her studio, I'm going to be offering children's yoga, and I'm also working on, I went to massage school in New Jersey back in 2006, and it's going to take me a couple classes, but I'm transferring my license into Tennessee.
Nice.
So eventually I will offer massage therapy. I'm also in partnership with Kim Butters over at Bodyworks University to offer the hair mineral analysis and the nutrition testing. However, on my website that's available. It's digitized. It's a downloadable thing. But yeah, just send me an email.
Yeah, definitely. I think I want to do that.
Thank you.
Because
I'll send you the link.
Okay,
directly.
because
you can share it.
because I mean, I just want to know where my baseline is, where you can improve.
Exactly.
I mean, you got to know what's going on in your body.
Right.
Huh. all right, so what about goat yoga?
Heck yeah!
I
Are
mean,
there any around here? I mean, I've seen
No.
that advertised in New York City.
No.
Goated.
There, I mean, up in Murfreesboro, I think I've seen a couple of them, but I'm fascinated by goat yoga.
You know, it's funny that like years ago, I was watching the Ellen DeGeneres show, and she talked about goats and trees, and did this whole special on goats and trees, and there was a calendar that was made, goats and trees. So I like subscribed to that calendar for a couple years.
I think we're all into different things. Kayla wants little baby donkeys, and I think that we've used equine therapy here.
Yes.
So animals itself are very important to our soul.
Actually, speaking of equine therapy, one of my passions is energy medicine. And there's a device that I'm acquiring and I'm going to offer locally for people to try. It's a beamer mat, and it works on pulse electromagnetic frequency. And in a nutshell, what that does is it just helps oxygenate the microcapillaries. It's a Class 2 FDA-approved device, and it's actually they use it in NASA on the astronauts and stuff, and it's the only energy device that has scientific studies to back it to show that it improves things structurally, but also that it helps reverse and prevent and do all kinds of other things.
Oh, that sounds fun too.
Yeah. So next time you have me as a guest, I'll
we'll
I'll
definitely
beam you up. I'll put you on the mat.
Yeah, well, I don't know about all that, but
demos.
yeah, I think that sounds awfully fun. Now, there's a doctor here, Dr. Tillman, that just put in a hyperbolic chamber.
Oxygen chamber. Is
Yes.
it local?
Yes,
Oh my God!
it's in
I don't
Montego.
have to drive to Chattanooga
No.
anymore.
He just got approved by the city
Dr.
council.
Tillman, I'm your first patient.
Yeah,
I'm coming.
it's right on the corner there where the monument is. He couldn't get it into another building, so he had to go there, is the story I heard. But I'm fascinated by that.
Justin Bieber sleeps in one.
Really?
He does.
And it opens. I was reading about it. I was like, get out. But I mean, it was talking about it opens up. It's oxygen
Yes.
under pressure, and it helps your cells open. Is that
Yes.
the theory behind it?
It is, and like our cells, think of them as little balloons, right? And the more deflated they are, the more unhappy they are, and that also equates to a more acidic environment within, and just lethargy and headaches and. But if we blow them up and they're nice and buoyant and they're feeling good,
Perky.
the rest of us are feeling good, our as a whole, our whole body. Absolutely. So I also try to give easy analogies for like people to understand kind of how this stuff works and make it fun, trendy, glamorous, and sexy, because if not, who's gonna want to do it?
Seriously.
And affordable.
Affordable is really key. Because we were talking about, we're always thinking, what business can we do? We went to a salt cave in Murfreesboro. I was fascinated by the salt cave.
Yeah.
Does that really work?
Well, yes, I believe so, because what the Himalayan salt specifically, and Dollar Tree sells
A bunch of it.
It releases negative ions into the air. And what we know about negative ions is it helps alleviate depression. It helps you to breathe better. a lot of times why people light beeswax candles is because it also emits negative ions, and it attaches to the dust molecules in the air and drops them to the floor. That's one of the reasons why our respiration becomes better when we surround ourselves with that type of salt or things that create negative ions. Yeah, so these are all inexpensive things the average person can incorporate into their home for their health benefits.
Yeah, and it just and then you dust it away, so it takes it out of the air.
Yeah, attaches and drops the dust.
There you go, Kayla.
Yeah.
Was that a salt lamp?
I do
The salt lamp would do
I
that
do salt
too,
lamps.
because it would emit the negative ions. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're just all about it. All right, I'm going to find those mushrooms. All right, we're going to send Dr. Wren on our way. We're going to go back to our regularly scheduled program. We've got basket giveaways tomorrow, so today we're just taking our phone calls, and we're wrapping up because it's cold out. But we're going to go on a quick break. We'll see you all in a minute, if Steven's watching.
Well, thank you so much for having me.